Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We begin the show this week from the campaign headquarters for Bob Hugin, Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate, in a race which has become surprisingly close. We'll talk to the candidate in just a moment. Also in this week's show, we'll also talk to Republican Congressman Leonard Lance, who is in the political fight for his life for re-election. And one North Jersey town is ahead of the state in decriminalizing marijuana. We'll tell you where it is. Finally, a new bill to try to stop the horror of pets and children dying in hot cars. And now, our interview with Bob Hugin, candidate for U.S. Senate from New Jersey. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Great to be with you, Larry.
As we do with every candidate, we've been covering the election now for the last couple of months. We just ask you to describe yourself to the voters and to our viewers.
Well, I'm a Jersey guy, Larry. I was born in Jersey City, grew up in Union City, went to college here in New Jersey, then I left to serve the Marine Corps and then came back and had a business career the last 20 years really in New Jersey in the biotech industry, helping transform a company that was struggling to one that really is an icon in the anti-war against cancer, and living the American dream, first in my family to go to college, and now it's time for me to give back again to make sure that New Jerseyans have a choice. And we need to make a big decision here on November 6th to stay with corruption and ineffective leadership or new direction, putting New Jersey first.
We're taping this interview, I should say, 2 days after an American icon has passed away and a former U.S. Senator, John McCain. I listened to some of the coverage over the weekend, and I listened to all these people bemoaning the fact that there's going to be nobody like him again in the Senate, somebody that could work both sides of the aisle and voted just on conviction. Did you learn from watching him? Do you aspire to be like him in the Senate?
Well, John McCain is unique and just a tremendous loss to our country, an amazing man, an amazing hero, an amazing politician in terms of impact. And I think he really is the role model for putting people ahead of partisan politics. And so that's, I don't think you want to emulate anybody. He's such an icon, but how he did things I really do admire, of putting people ahead of partisan politics. Yes, absolutely, Larry.
So they're talking about a void because everything is so partisan now. Are you hoping to fill that void?
Yeah, I think, yes, absolutely. I don't want to say fill his shoes because they're big shoes, yeah. But I do think we need all people to say, let's get people who care about results and action and putting people ahead of party and politics, and let's not worry about we've become too partisan. All of us are too partisan. We've got to focus on what the people need and do it, and he's the role model. Hopefully his life will be a real beacon for us all to say that's what we should strive for, to put people ahead of politics.
A lot of people have talked about John McCain's vote on the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Right. Did he do the right thing?
Well, Larry, I think health care is important to all of us, right? It affects every one of our lives. It's a huge part of the economy. And I think we've politicized health care way beyond what's appropriate because it really matters. And our healthcare system was designed nearly 70 years ago in an economy and a country that is so different than today. We need continual reform of healthcare. And it's one of the great things I really think I'll bring to the Senate, a real knowledge, 11 years on the board of Atlantic Health, a very forward-looking healthcare system in New Jersey, almost 20 years in biotech, a broad perspective on healthcare. We've politicized this too much. And in fact, the major transformation of healthcare, I'd say 75 to 80% of that is agreed upon by Democrats and Republicans. But because of the 20% on the polls, people don't get done what needs to be done. Healthcare is not something we should be talking about in the first year only of a new administration, every 4 or 8 years. We should be talking about healthcare all the time. It's such a big part of the economy. It affects all of us. I've written op-eds about this. This is important for people, and we've got to depoliticize it. Let's get what's right for people and get it done.
Sir, I was asking you if John McCain was right in voting no, and in doing that, what I was asking you was, did you agree with that bill, the repeal and replacement bill, and would you still want it repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act?
Let me be clear. There is no one bill that's going to transform healthcare. We've got a lot of work to do. the Affordable Care Act had some very good components of it, pre-existing conditions to ensure people with pre-existing conditions are protected, allow kids till they're 26 to stay on their parents' insurance, focus on prevention and wellness, some baby steps towards paying for performance and not just pay for activity, reform the way we pay for health care, some good things, but from some very bad things in the Affordable Care Act in terms of really damaging and hurting the working poor. It really discriminated against the working poor the way it was structured. And repeal and replace, I think we need to do lots on health care. It's not just one bill or another. I think that I don't even like to call it Obamacare because that politicizes it. Healthcare is too important for us to let it be treated the way it's been treated in Washington as a political football. It matters to every American, whether you're healthy or sick, it matters to you. The cost of it's so important. We've got a lot to do to improve outcomes and lower costs.
I want to get back to issues in a moment, but let's deal with politics a little bit if we can. Sure. You've gotten the attention of a lot of people, especially because the poll numbers have been so great for you. It's going up against a long-sitting senator. However, when I look at some like the Larry Sabato and I look at the Cook report, the people that are prognosticators on these races, they still have it as likely Democrat.
Well, I see some have moved, yes. And I have to tell you, Larry, doesn't concern me at all because the only poll that matters is November the 6th, obviously. But also, let's keep this race in New Jersey. It's Bob Hugin versus Bob Menendez. 25 years in Washington, 16 years with a Democratic president, and New Jersey's dead last. We get the least back from Washington of any state in the country. 25 years, it's time for change. On top of that, 35 years of been involved in corruption. The Senate Ethics Committee, you just earlier said, it's hard to have anything bipartisan. Well, in Washington, the Senate Ethics Committee said he's guilty, violated federal law, abused the power of his office, disgraced the Senate, embarrassed all of us. That corruption combined with ineffective, it's time for change. So let's keep this about New Jersey, Hugin versus Menendez, and keep people focused here, and the polls can say what they want, and Washington can do what they want. Washington's got its own problems. They should worry about what they need to do there. We'll take care of New Jersey. I've
heard you say that several times. It's one of the central themes of your campaign, Bob Menendez's corruption and the fact that New Jersey pays a lot into the federal government and is at the bottom of the heap in getting money back. How would you fix that? You're accusing Bob Menendez of not doing enough. How would you fix that?
I think in so many different ways, Larry. Just last week, I was in Burlington County, and we saw this whole area, urban area strategic initiatives program, which has helped to fortify our immediate first responders for terrorism or natural disasters. And Philadelphia, the whole Pennsylvania area, Philadelphia specifically, puts a proposal together that incorporates Burlington and Gloucester counties, Camden County, and the money goes to all of Philadelphia, nothing to New Jersey. The same thing in New York. You look at Hudson County and all the things we need to do to help strengthen against terrorism and natural disasters. The money goes to New York. New Jersey gets zero. Stop that. A couple of other things. Senator Menendez was on the Senate Finance Committee, sat on his hands when a $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions happened. Maybe if he had been engaged in it, maybe we could have a $15,000 cap or $17,500 or a $20,000 cap. He's done nothing to focus on what New Jersey needs. Gateway, we talk about Gateway, the third tunnel, desperately needed. Should have been done 30 years ago, 25, in the 90s, we had a balanced budget. Where's the focus on infrastructure in New Jersey? Where we've been the crossroads of the American economy for 100 years. You wouldn't have the economy we have in New England or the middle Atlantic states or even Western states if New Jersey hadn't built its own infrastructure. Now it's time for Washington to get focused back on New Jersey. So I have to tell you, Larry, it's in this campaign, I have found so many things where New Jersey just hasn't gotten its fair share at all. It's time to change that, and that's what I'm going to do.
Speaking of sitting on his hands, many of the Democrats have accused Bob Menendez of not being engaged enough in this campaign, that you've owned the airwaves for so long. He's come out on the airwaves now with some ads attacking you. I want to talk about that when Jersey Matters continues in our conversation with candidate Bob Hugin right after this.